for being here today. So we are here to discuss integrated systems and ERPs. It's a very hot topic at the moment. People have got a lot of questions. So I'm wondering what you all have to say about it and how you can help people reach that point where they know what they want to do now.
So I'm Will Smith. I'm a senior strategist at Equator. So my role typically within a project is to get under the skin of the business. So I would be understanding what your current people makeup is, where maybe some of the skill gaps are, but also where some of the processes ultimately look like.
Yeah, I'm Khalid Salim, Solution Architect at Equator. So yeah, I'll feed off of essentially what Will brings to the table. So I'll take that sort of overarching assessment of the business and the sort of procedural pain points, that operational expenditure where there shouldn't be. And essentially I'll then look at the current digital ecosystem. That's apps and services and databases and all the various components. And I'll sort of start to build a picture of, well, where are we now? Where does that fit with that people and process? What's the culture around that from a digital maturity perspective? Where are we trying to get to? And ultimately about try and just draw the shortest line possible between where we are and where we need to be.
So I'm Talha. I work in the marketing department here at Equator, and really and truly I'm quite focused on kind of the marketing messages and the transactional messages, and it is about understanding the customer, who the customer is for our clients, and that's enabled when Will does the customer journey mapping, and then Khalid brings the technology together, and that enables me to then understand who the customers are for our clients, what are their needs, and then sending that right message to the right channel at the right time to the right person. That's what I do within marketing, and none of this is actually possible without integrated systems. So we need to learn about our customers through the data flowing through all these technologies and systems together, whether you call it an ERP or a CRM system or a CDP or a DMP, that all enables us to understand and enrich the data on the customers and understand their needs.
So the first step is really about understanding what does the business ultimately look like. If we can understand that makes sure that we really understand what their existing processes look like. I think going and rushing into a decision creates a lot of disruption, but not the good kind. It's a lot of friction that can certainly happen. So that's why it's really important for us to start to take stock in terms of what is the problem that you're trying to solve, what is the vision and the overall objectives, and then understanding the people makeup and the overall process. That really helps us make sure that we've got that well-balanced decision as we're moving forward.
For me, that the first step is always to just assess that overall landscape and see where are those pain points from a data perspective, and try and ultimately improve the flow of data between different systems.
I think from a strategic point, integration really means about thinking about how we design systems that really help make sure that we're working in flow with each other. We want to make sure that we are always increasing the value to not just the customers, but it could be employees. Actually, it could be any kind of user of the system. So integration is really making sure that we're creating a workflow that actually works for an organization.
Yeah, and for me, one of the most important things about integration is being able to almost create that flexibility, unlock that flexibility to add new integrations, remove them, change them, or and essentially just move at the speed of the business. So almost less focus on individual services or apps or data points, and more focus on being able to change that with the business at pace.
From a marketing point of view, it is absolutely essential that the businesses are able to identify that the customer who's walked into the store, landed on the website, opened the app on their phone, has spoken to the customer service people, they're able to identify that it is the same customer. So those 5 different interactions cannot be regarded as 5 different people. The businesses need to know who this person is, what their needs are, and that can't be done without those integrated systems of the customer service tool or the marketing tool, the promotional tool, to be able to speak together and pull that data together to identify who the customer is.
No, not necessarily. I wouldn't say so. For me, good integration will only take you so far. At the end of the day, you could have a really well integrated set of systems, but if you have sort of data silos, fragmentation, potentially a dual source of truth, so to speak, not that single customer view, then really well integrated systems are ultimately just going to kind of feed the beast to some extent and almost continue to propagate that lack of data integrity.
I guess there's a lot of benefits to these conversations, and sort of to add on to this one is when we are engaging with clients, these conversations are so important to have to make sure that we're ultimately moving in the right direction. We could have a number of different teams that they've got their own sets of requirements, they've got their own viewpoints, but by having these conversations and ensuring that we're ultimately understanding what their pain points are, what their main goals and objectives are, and bridging that gap, that helps us ultimately move in the right direction. It makes us understand, well, what direction do we want to take? Do we want to do an ERP, or do we want to integrate the systems? Actually, there's a whole host of different routes that we could go, and there's many examples where, Khaled, you and I have worked on projects where we've gone either route, but the benefit of having that conversation really is that we get everybody moving in the right direction. You are also seeing from each one of the different teams and the senior leaders, this is the sort of the route that the direction that we're trying to move towards. And it ensures that organizations ultimately are going to be pushing in the right direction, and that you're ultimately going to be reaping huge amounts of value for your organization, for your customers. You're creating, a huge improvements with any inefficiencies, for example. There's lots of sort of benefits. So there's two different sort of sides on that one that I think by these conversations, they might be tough, but they're valuable. They're essential to making sure that you're going down the right route.
So yeah, it does need to be taken on a business by business case, and that's something. I mean, that's kind of as Will was alluding to earlier around the right way to approach it. It's almost as much about doing that due diligence and sizing up what is the opportunity here and the benefit of us taking on a product like this, because ultimately the right path for a business might be actually just to spend more attention to the integration of the component parts that they have, rather than lift something entirely new off the shelf.
There's no point in thinking about adopting an ERP if they don't have the right skill sets, they don't have the right capabilities to put this into place, because ultimately it will fail and you're going to be going backwards, and think that then creates a bigger challenge. So there's not a right answer, and I agree with Khaled what you're saying, there's not a right answer nor a wrong answer. The key thing is we need to examine what's currently happening versus where you want to be, understand that maturity and the ability to adopt any change or these systems.
And just to bring to life what Will's just said is, like, if you take two examples or at the opposite end of the spectrums, on one end of the spectrum, you've got a new gift shop. A sole owner has opened that business and it gets an off-the-shelf solution from MailChimp. So that MailChimp system is an ERP for it, a CRM, a CDP, everything, all of that, the entire system is MailChimp, and it's off the shelf, but affordable and easily usable by that sole owner. On the other end of the spectrum, if you look at a global airline business, you think about multiple destinations, thousands of employees, huge supply chain functionality, multiple languages, flights scheduled, all of that. You cannot do away with a custom-built ERP system or an off-the-shelf, but in that case, you're talking about multiple systems, flight tracking systems, all speaking to each other. So that's how, like Will said, it's about gathering that business requirements and then translating them into whether it's a custom-built or off-the-shelf.
A blanket approach might not be the right way forward. Financial, it might make sense, but actually you might be doing more harm than good, and I think that then creates a bit of a challenge. But equally, it's like when we're talking about different examples or different industries, I think that's something to obviously be sort of taken into consideration, is that, you know, there's different legislation, there's different rules, there's a lot to consider as part of this. And depending on obviously where you're operating or how you want to operate within a certain market, I think that certainly needs to be taken into consideration as well.
I think certainly from a marketing point of view, I think it's about looking at your business needs, but also your customer needs. So for example, if you want to increase your number of customers over the years from 30,000 to 3 million, that's marrying up your future growth plan with what your current state, and taking into consideration your customer needs and your business needs, marrying them together, and then choosing the best tech stack and whatever that translates into. It could be an ERP, or could not be an ERP, or could be something else. But it boils down to those business requirements.
Don't rush into making a decision. I think that there needs to be a consideration for multiple viewpoints across the team. And it is not just a senior leadership team that needs to make a decision. Actually, it's really listening to what the operation, what the process is, but also what your people are ultimately, where the gaps are, and what the skill set ultimately looks like.
I guess my one piece of advice would be not to make the mistake of thinking that an off-the-shelf product is just going to come along and solve all of your problems. I think, almost to echo the point, you know, there is almost these off-the-shelf products are solving many problems simultaneously. And actually, if you look at the specifics of your business, you may see that it can be solved in a much simpler way. Sometimes the solution is a lot simpler than the problem. You know, when we talk about integrated systems, ultimately ERP comes down to two kind of big goals for me. It's that single source of truth and the integration of platforms and services. Sometimes that integration can be tied up a lot quicker for some clients than they almost realise. You know, they look at a situation and think, we need to really dig deeper and make some huge change, but actually it's sort of a cultural change. There's a bit of a strategy to adopt. If in the end the problem's solved by some, you know, high license off the shelf product, then even better. You know, that's great for you, but no one should leap to that assumption. You know, they should do the diligence and do the assessment. And actually, sometimes the solution's simpler than you think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all of that. Like, that was so interesting, and I'm really looking forward to the report that we're going to be releasing about all of this. So make sure that you keep your eyes out for that, and hopefully we can have another chat soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.